Greetings. This is Troy Lamel Stovall, the CEO of TEDCO. Welcome to another edition of TEDCO Talks. As you know, TEDCO is the early stage technology driver for early stage technology investments here in the state of Maryland. Oh, wait. Oh, shoot, I messed up. Hold on just a minute, Kareem. Let me do one quickie thing. All right, Kareem, we know some stuff about you. So, we know, Kareem, that you are a lover of hard rock. We know you like to mountain bike. And so I thought I would come on with this mask, which is really killing me right now. I'm not sure how long I'm going to stay in this. I ain't going to lie to you.
Well, I will say, Troy, first time I've ever had an interview with someone coming on dressed like you. So I'm excited, and thank you for having me.
That's what I'm talking about, brother. That's what I'm talking about. So, favorite hard rock, heavy metal rock band?
So I've got a lot of them, but one of my favorite bands, which I'm getting ready to see, is a band called Pantera. So really enjoy them. I know it's always interesting when people hear, I know you were surprised when you heard the kind of music I like, which just always shows and goes to the fact that you never really know a person until you get to talk to them and get to know them a little better.
Now, see, I didn't do it because I went through this whole thing. I didn't introduce you. See, I see I'm talking about getting off script. So I got to make sure I say the last name right because we'll mess that up too. But I'm so honored to be here today, even in this mask. We're having fun, but that's the whole point of this. Carim Khouzami,
yep.
Khouzami. He is the president of BGE. You'll learn more about BGE. It's a great utility here in Maryland. But Carim and I have gotten to be great partners here in our ecosystem building here in Maryland. But I want to have a little fun with him before we get into the serious stuff. That okay with you, Carim?
That's great. Let's go.
So, so tell me more about this love affair with hard rock.
Yeah, for me, I don't know. My whole life, I've always enjoyed the music. I really like music in general, but really like the energy, the excitement, the speed of the music. So for me, it's what clicked. You know, it's always everyone's got what they've got in terms of what they like in terms of music. And for me, you know, hard rock was one of those things. I won't lie. I do also enjoy a little bit of the shock value when people look at me and they hear that I like hard rock. Because it's not what you would guess with a guy wearing a blazer, short hair, all that stuff. But it goes back to like what I said earlier. You really never know a person until you get to know them.
Hey, to the man on that. So now you do mountain biking, right? Do you do like long mountain bike rides?
I do. So I've got a son who's very active, and he started mountain biking. I started doing it with him, just a way to do things together. And so we have been all over Maryland, Pennsylvania, Virginia, the Mid-Atlantic, have gone up to Vermont, and we'll basically bike any mountain we can find. And we do, I think we do very long rides. And then when I think we're done, he does another loop. So, you know, that's what happens when you're a 19-year-old. You can do a little more than a 47-year-old.
Longest ride.
Longest ride was probably about 26 miles.
Oh. And Pete, how high have you guys gone?
I'm sorry, what was that?
How high?
How high? So so it's a little hard with the math. So
yeah, it's time for that to go.
No worries. So we've done all kinds of different mountains. We do some where we take the on ski slopes. So during the summertime, an opportunity, and again, you know, just a great example of innovation. These ski slopes, you know, obviously during the summer they weren't making any money, didn't have any business. They found a way to kind of turn their slopes into mountain biking trails, and so we take the chairlift up and, you know, ride down. I'll be honest, I do enjoy that because I don't have to pedal uphill. I just
ride down is a whole lot better than
it's a lot better. It's a lot easier on the body too. But you know, we do it all. So whatever we can find, it's just it's always just fun being outside, having a chance to be with my son. I started doing it on my own. He's off at college now, so I have found myself and found a little group that I kind of mountain bike with. So just a good way to stay active.
Well, good. I may join you on one of those long rides. I don't
Absolutely.
I've got a road bike and a mountain bike. I normally don't do long rides on my mountain bike just because I just don't like it. I usually do my road bike. But, you know, if it's with some good friends, I can probably pull it off.
Well, it's funny. The way we got him into mountain biking was he was getting into road biking. And, you know, with road biking, there's always the danger of the cars and all that. So my wife was nervous. So I convinced him to move to mountain biking. And now she sees some of the trails, some of the mountains he rides. And she said, is this really safer? And, you know, hopefully it is. We'll see. So.
No, I have the same thing with my road bike. I don't do a lot of roads. I do trails even on my road bike. I just because I've almost been hit too many times. It's just
right. It's dangerous.
It's too scary. So let's talk about BGE, but I first want to talk about your journey. You've had an amazing journey to get to this point to be the president. I mean, you've been at Constellation, and then which is another part of that, and then you've had progression. And as I look at your journey, one of the jobs you've had that's intriguing, I want to kind of hear is that you came in as investor relations initially, and so I'd like to understand kind of how you moved from it, and then you've been a CFO. You've had a lot of progression there. So I guess talk to our folks not so much from a bio recapping, but kind of that journey and how that journey progressed, and kind of key forks in that road, and then the last part of that is, how do you move from investor relations to being the CEO? That's a very different, that's not a normal linear trajectory that you see.
No, well, I mean, I would tell you it's funny because you look back now and you look at my the positions I've been fortunate to have at, Exelon, BGE, Constellation, all one family of set of utilities. You can see I've had roles in operations, in strategy, in planning, in external affairs, investor relations. All of those things are the attributes that a president CEO hopefully will have and makes them a viable candidate for that position. So you look at it and you think, what a journey in terms of a plan. You got all the boxes checked and you were ready for it. I will tell you, absolutely none of it was planned. That's not how it worked out. What I did was I grew up in Baltimore. I spent a few years in New York in banking and then came back to Baltimore, and I joined the corporate strategy group. That was very similar to what I was doing up in New York in banking in terms of mergers and acquisitions and finance and strategic thinking. And then I got an opportunity to go into investor relations, as you mentioned. And that was a marketing job, something I had never really done, didn't talk to investors. And I pushed back a little bit. I said, I don't think that's what my skill set is. And I was lucky. I had good mentors that really kind of encouraged me to kind of think outside of where you're comfortable, try to develop new skills, and that will help round you out. And, all the positions throughout, I'll be honest, I'm always a little hesitant. And these mentors always push me to kind of say, think about what this brings to you in terms of you as a leader, in terms of rounding you out. So I was fortunate that I had good people that encouraged me to take these roles. Looking back, every single role has been helpful, has been impactful, has helped me prepare for me for this job here at BGE. So I've been very lucky. But really, in the end, it wasn't a concerted plan because, as you know, Troy, it's not like anyone knows exactly what's going to happen 5 years, 3 years, 2 years, maybe even next year. The world changes. We all know that after the last 2 or 3 years. So again, it's one of those things that I was fortunate that I had opportunities presented to me. I was fortunate I had people to encourage me to take them, and really lucky that I had people that believed in me to put me in a role that I wasn't exactly had the full background in. They just had confidence that I would be able to learn the skills and be able to do well there.
So, amazing journey. And I heard two themes, and tell me if I got it. I heard two themes. One, having, I'm going to use a little bit, you call them mentors, but having kind of a kitchen cabinet, people who will be there. And the other theme I heard was there's a level of uncomfortability and even entrepreneurship that goes in career advancement. Is that a fair summary?
Absolutely. And again, that kitchen cabinet, as you put it, those mentors, a lot of times people think they have to be in the company you're in. In fact, I have a lot that are from outside of the company, either people I used to work with or people I'm friends with. And they sometimes are the best mentors because they can really be that sounding board that aren't, as familiar with a certain situation and can give you that objective take. And again, as we know, the more different takes, the more ways you can look at something, the more insight, the better decisions you'll make. In terms of the uncomfortableness, absolutely. Every role I went into, I was very uncomfortable at the start. And that's a good thing. Again, what I tell people is if you are fully comfortable on day one, it's probably not the right role for you. And, will you actually be able to develop? What skill are you going to get from it? I often tell people that come to me and ask me about positions or how to think about positions, what are the things you look for? And for me, I look for three things. I look for a job that is interesting. I look for a job that is important, impactful. And I look for a job that works with people and teams and has people you work for that care about you, that will help you develop, and that are actually good people that you want to be around. If you get those three things, you can do any job. And that's what I always look for.
That's almost like a book. You could write a book around those three things. You really, I mean, seriously, you could. I mean, I think in your journey is a great testimony to being able to go through that journey and not being planned. Number one, again, I keep going back to this. There's an entrepreneurial innovation to your career, right? Because you were able to take on risk. I mean, I tell you all the time, innovation plus risk is entrepreneurship. And so that's what I hear in your career trajectory.
I'd agree. I would agree.
So spend a little bit of time. I'm sure some people here in the Maryland area that listen to us may know about BGE because they see your bill every month. But
well, hopefully they hear other things too about BGE. So,
and that's why I wanted you to say that exactly.
Good. No, I think, Troy, thanks for teeing that up. Obviously, we have been very fortunate to be the electricity and natural gas supplier to Central Maryland for the last 200 plus years. And again, with that, obviously, comes a bill every month, and we appreciate that. But I think what's also important is we also see that having that opportunity, having that privilege comes with a great deal of responsibility. And that responsibility is, what can we do? We have a tremendous platform here in Central Maryland as BGE. What can we do to help lift up our communities, lift up our customers? So, of course, we have to deliver safe and reliable energy. But obviously, what can we do to partner with our customers? What can we do to help them understand their energy usage? What can we do in the forms of workforce development, community involvement, community support? These are all things that we are very, very vested in. And I'm very fortunate that, you know, the DNA at BGE, the 3,200 men and women that work at BGE, every single one of them cares about their community, cares about the region. And, you know, that's one of those things that you get weeded out real quick if you don't, because it's a big piece of the job. You know, one of the things, there's lots to be proud of at BGE. We have a fantastic team, but one of the things I'm most proud of is how engaged our teams are in the communities where we work and where we live. Last year, and again, it was a little tougher because we still had some COVID at the beginning of the year, but when you look at the volunteer activity, over 30,000 hours of volunteer hours last year among 3,200 men and women, more hundreds of boards that they sit on, you know, lots of community organizations that they're a part of. These are great things and things that we're really proud about. And so, as you mentioned, BGE, what I hope people see is that BGE is doing more than being your energy supplier. Obviously, we have to do that. That's our job. But we also think our job is also to try to find ways to lift up our communities and make them stronger in so many other ways as well.
Man, again, I grew up, I didn't grow up Baptist, but I grew up on a Baptist preacher. So alliteration, I think, is a big thing that they use, you know, to get people. And so I heard you say 3 P's. Okay. I heard you say platform, partner, and people.
That's great. Yes, absolutely. We believe in all 3 of those.
Yeah, but I guess, and that's the point, right? Is because you're right. I mean, most people's interaction with BGE is either their bill each month or when the lights don't work. one or the other, right?
Right.
And so, what's a specific example? You know, you kind of laid out that people should be able to see BGE or engage with BGE beyond that light or that, you know, light going on.
Oh, absolutely. And I think there's a lot of different places. So when you look out in the community, you should start to see us in our blue shirts doing community activities. So, for example, just a few weeks ago, we were painting an alley in downtown Baltimore, trying to help beautify that area around our building, around the downtown area near our building. Other places are, you look at it on campuses. So you think about some of the higher ed campuses. You know, we have opportunities there where we are trying to create a real presence. We recently had at Bowie State what we called our Black Excellence in Energy series. So a speaker series that we sponsored, that we were able to bring in people from outside of BGE that are in the energy space to kind of show what are the possible careers and the path for people, young people like those at Bowie State and at the other universities. And then we had a small job fair with those people to help connect students with opportunities. When you look at the, you know, high school levels, you look at some of the schools like Mervo, for example, we have an active presence there with their plumbing internship program. So this is an opportunity for students to get their plumbing license, to be certified. And that's also either you can go into plumbing. That also is a good stepping stone into our own business, our gas business, because it's very similar types of skill sets. So we're trying to get connected with young people, with other people in the communities, to try to help them achieve their full potential. One of the things that we understand is, you know, we don't know what everyone needs. We don't know the places that we can necessarily make the biggest difference. So what we do is, you know, the second P that you mentioned, partnership. We work with a lot of nonprofits, a lot of community organizers, a lot of other individuals to try to better understand what are the needs that they see out there and how can we help. one thing I always tell them is don't assume you know what BGE can or cannot do. There's a lot of things we can do.
Yeah.
I'll give you an example, Troy. I was out at UMBC and I was talking to a young lady, and very impressive young lady. And I said, "Hey, would you ever think about coming to work at BGE?" And she said, "Well, I'm not an engineer and I don't want to be a line worker." And again, we have a lot of engineers, we have a lot of line workers. So I asked her, "What are you interested in?" She said, "I'm interested in finance." I said, "Well, did you know BG has a finance team of 90 people?" And she said, "Really?" And so you start talking, and then you start to realize that a lot of people don't appreciate all the things we do. One of the best examples of that is, we go to middle schools and lower schools sometimes to talk about STEM. And I'll tell you the best way to get their attention is we have two individuals. We have drones that we fly over our transmission lines to do inspections. We have two individuals. Their job is to fly drones. You go to a fifth or sixth grader and say, you can have a job and your job is to fly drones all day and do inspections. They get very excited about that. So it's a good way to kind of hook them in and get them interested in what could be there. What are the potentials? Because a lot of times, a lot of people don't know what the opportunities are out there for them. And helping identify that to them can help them get excited and help them work towards that goal.
Now, I like the drone example is a great example of part of the transition, but I think people see, again, I'm being repetitive, they just see electricity, they just see the electric lines, they figure you guys just pump the electricity into it, and then when it doesn't work, you send a lines person out. And that's pretty much what it is you do. And so when you talk about the innovation of using drones, the innovation of the other innovations, I think this type of conversation hopefully open eyes to folks of the career possibilities that BGE are beyond just thinking about this. Let's be blunt, kind of that's just a utility.
Right. Well, I would say again, so we are over 200 years old, and the amount of change that's happened in the last 20 years is probably more than the last 180 years before that. And I would say, as you look forward, the amount of change coming is even greater. So you think about the push that Maryland has to get to a net carbon zero future by 2045 statewide. We aren't the only people that have to be involved in that, but we're a big piece of it. And so when you think about the transition that our energy system and the grid will have to be going through, we need smart, innovative, new ways of thinking and new ways of attacking some of the problems. The grid of tomorrow, the grid that we'll need in 3, 5, 10 years from now, is not the same grid that we designed 200 years ago. A lot is going to change. A lot of distributed energy resources, so you think of solar and wind, are going to come online. A lot of battery technology, a lot of EVs are going to be coming online. This all adds to the capacity that is needed on the grid. And how are we going to get there while also ensuring that our customers are still getting safe and reliable service, and they're getting service that they can afford and is cost efficient? So these are the kinds of things that we grapple with every single day. And one of the nice things is at BGE, it's very easy for us to have conversations because we all start in the same place, which is how does this benefit our customers and what do our customers need? And if you start with that as the opening line, opening question of any presentation, any question, any decision, then you can always come to the right answer.
You mentioned EV. I wouldn't, but you brought it up. You mentioned EVs. I mean, EVs are a small part of the marketplace, but clearly they're a growing part of the market. I mean, how can you talk to how that's going to impact the grid and the distribution in the grid and the utilization of the grid going forward?
Sure. So what I would say is the grid has a certain level of capacity. And so I always equate it to a home Wi-Fi network. When I'm at home, me, my wife, 2 kids, the Wi-Fi works great. When all of a sudden the kids invite 10 friends over and they try to get on, it runs slow, people can't get on, they get dropped. That's what could happen to the electrical grid if we don't prepare it. So when you think about electric vehicles, when you think about electrifying buildings, when you think about other things people want to do in the future to get to a net carbon zero goal, all of a sudden that's adding more and more demand on the grid. And we have to ensure that capacity is there. Some of that is added investment, but even beyond just added investment, it's also a new way of thinking about how we do things. So for example, you mentioned electric vehicles. Obviously, electric vehicles, they have their impact on the electrical grid when they're charging the cars. And so when you think about that, what is a way that we can help to not have everyone come home at 6 p.m. and all plug their cars in at the same time and have that great demand on the grid? There's something that we've been piloting at BGE called a time of use rate, where basically you can get a lower rate if you decide to charge your car at a later hour. So for example, when is the least amount of power needed by our customers? 2, 3, 4 a.m. Well, a lot of these chargers now, you can help actually program, you can actually set it so that you can plug it in and just say, all right, don't start charging until 2 a.m. For those customers, we can offer a lower rate. And so these are the kinds of things that we have to think differently. This isn't something we did 20 years ago, 30 years ago, 100 years ago. We have to think differently about how we're doing everything to ensure that, one, our grid can handle the capacity, the demands that are coming, and two, that our customers can take advantage of opportunities like that to save money.
That's outstanding. That's good. So Carim and I are BGE and Carim and other leaders here in the ecosystem have become big supporters of an effort that TEDCO has been asked to lead called Cultivate. And for those that are interested, and there'll probably be some information on the website about it, but you can go to, if you Google TEDCO Cultivate, you'll see the study, you'll see the ask that we're asking legislators. But where I want to focus this part of the conversation is part of the impetus on Cultivate is how do we make sure that there's an engagement in this innovation entrepreneurship by all, this whole notion of equitech. And so I would like you to speak a little bit about kind of the role of DEI plays there at BGE, and not just BGE, but how do we think about, you talked about how do we create a more prosperous Maryland, more prosperous Baltimore, but that also has to include that everyone is able to, has a chance to participate. So I'd like for you to talk a little bit about that and what BGE is.
No, absolutely. I think everyone can easily agree that innovation is necessary for us to move forward, for us to continue to be a leader, whether you're talking about a company, an organization, or a state. And again, when you think about innovation, the very basis of innovation is to think about doing things differently and better. And the way that you get that is you have to have that diversity of thought. You have to have that diversity of people, diversity of backgrounds, to bring different ways of looking at a similar problem in different ways so you can come to the best solution. I'll give you a real life example at BGE, for example. Over the last 10 to 12 years, there's been a real focus on DEI. And again, one of the ideas and the reason for this, not only was it the right thing to do, but it's important for us to get that diversity of thought into our company so that we can be the most innovative and best company we can be. During that 10 to 12 year period, every single operating metric that we have has improved significantly. I mean, leaps and bounds. And that's entirely because we are looking at ways to do things differently, and we're bringing in that diversity of thought into our ecosystem here at BGE. And as I mentioned earlier, as we move forward, we're going to need that because, again, we're going to be doing things differently than we ever have before. You think about the period during COVID, we needed people coming in and giving us different ways of thinking. If we were all the same, all had the same backgrounds and thought one way, there's no real innovation there. We just keep doing the same thing every single day the same way because that's the way we see the world. So this idea of DEI, again, not only is it the right thing to do, not as only is it right to provide opportunities for everyone in all of our communities, but it's also a way for us as a company, as a state, to ensure that we can be the very best version of ourselves.
I love it. So my old firm, McKinsey, did a study that just quoted a lot. I may have even quoted it here. They looked at the top Fortune 500, Fortune 1000, and those that were more diverse outperformed their peers. I mean, significantly outperformed their peers, and to the point you're making. And it's not just about diversity. That's why I don't disagree with you, but it's also about accessing to markets and communities that could value a product that you hadn't thought about or hadn't thought about how to get to them because you had too much of the same groupthink sitting around the table. And so there's opportunity, but the whole point being there's opportunity being missed both on the talent acquisition as well as market opportunity, as well as, frankly, revenues, if you don't have that diversity of thought.
Yeah, and I would add, so I agree with everything you said, it's not only talent acquisition, it's talent retention. So it's important for people to be able to look and see people from the same background, people who look like them, being successful in the organization so that they want to stay and they want to have that. One of the things that we've been doing at BGE, obviously, again, very focused on diversity, equity, and inclusion, but we've taken it down multiple levels to make sure not only, and BGE is a very diverse company, but also looking group by group, is every group represented equally as well? Because, for example, you can have a very diverse company overall, but if everyone in a certain group is just one type, people look at that group and say, well, I don't see anyone that looks like me. I don't see anyone that comes from the same background as me. I don't think someone like me can be successful there. And then you get back to this concept of you don't get that diversity of thought. You don't get that diversity of experience. You don't get that new way of thinking into that group, which overall is going to impact negatively the organization and not help us progress forward. So I fully agree. I'm not surprised. I know the McKinsey report that you're talking about. Again, like I said, at BG, we have a real life example. I can look at my metrics. There's zero doubt. This is just, again, I'm a finance guy by nature. It's numbers. I can see it. It was here, and now it's much, much higher. So that's entirely because we brought that diversity of thought into our ecosystem.
And the other thing you're saying with that, and McKinsey report talks about this, is it can't be a project. You have to make it part of your culture. You have to make it part of the performance metrics. You have to make it part of, frankly, the compensation for executives and the like. Because if it's a project, that's exactly, it's over here. It's a project. And as soon as time gets tough or something happens, projects get cut. That's just the nature of project. But if it's innate of what you are as part of your corporate strategy, as part of your corporate performance and compensation, you can't cut that.
Yeah, no, I would agree with everything. And the other thing I would say is DEI. I'll be honest, Troy. D is the easy part of DEI. I can hire whoever I want. I can get whoever. I can make my numbers whatever I want them to be. Yep. The part is I, and underneath the I is this concept of belonging. How do you get everyone to understand, buy in, and feel that this initiative, this effort, this part of our DNA, this DEI piece is important to all of us, that it has an impact, that everyone comes along, and that it's not that it's just we're moving these groups forward and leaving this group behind. How does everyone join that journey? And that's what we're doing at BGE. And again, we've made great progress. We're doing very well, but we can do better. And so we're always looking for ways to do better, reach out and tap into new resources, new groups, new people, new ways of thinking, and bring them into our company, because again, that's going to be what makes us the strongest company we can be.
But the whole cycle is that is if you had diversity of thought, people can bring their authentic self. If they're bringing their authentic self, they feel comfortable presenting diversity of thought, because they are being the authentic self.
Yeah, and one of our primary tenets at BGE is safety. So obviously, we work with high voltage electricity. We work with natural gas. These are things that if you don't do your job safely, if you're not focused, bad things can happen. And so when you think about this idea of bringing your authentic self to work, we also say it's a safety. DEI is a safety issue, because if you're worried about not being yourself, if you're worried about putting a mask on, not like the mask you had earlier, but if you're worried about trying to be someone you're not, and you're climbing a pole 40 feet in the air during a storm, your head isn't all there. You're not focused on the job at hand. And that's when things can go wrong. So not only, I go back to, it's the right thing to do. It makes our company a stronger place. It keeps our employees and teams safe. For me, there's no reason why DEI shouldn't be at the forefront of everything we do and part of our DNA in everything we do.
Man, that's beautiful. I don't know if I've ever told you, I used to work for the old Southwestern Bell. So I've climbed my share of telephone poles and been up those poles. So I understand exactly.
I climbed one myself as well. And as you know, when you get up there, it shakes a lot. So
yes, they do. Yes, they do. Well, look, man, as we close, and this has been a great, like you said, we could have talked forever.
Absolutely.
I so enjoy our time together and what we do together. But I want to go back to, we started kind of some of the personal. So we both got older kids. I got 2 kids in college, like you, and one in college, like you. And our sport was swimming, and so I became a stroke and turn official to basically I could be on the deck with the kids and have something to do other than just watch. But I understand you were a youth softball coach.
Well, youth baseball coach, but
youth baseball.
Yep.
So how did you enjoy that?
I very much enjoyed it. So my son plays a lot of baseball. I played a lot of baseball. My daughter played soccer for a period of time, so I coached her as well until she gave up soccer and focused on other activities. I will tell you, I had a lot of fun coaching baseball. It's a lot. The parents were great. I always used to start off my conversation with the parents about how none of these kids are going to be major leaguers. Let's kind of get our level set. And so I got a great group of parents that were always supportive. We're not, you hear some of these terror stories. I didn't have those. I did that until my son was about 14. And then I'll be honest, Troy, all the kids got too good for me. They had to go get a real coach. And I remember when he had this new coach, I remember he came home one day, him and his friend, and his friend said, Coach Khouzami, the new coach, he's so good. He's teaching us so many things. Oh, but you were good too. And I said, listen, this is better than me. I'm not a professional baseball coach. So it was fun. I mean, again, it's youth sports. I can't think of anything better than youth sports. I just enjoy watching them. It's interesting because As you said, my son is a freshman in college. My daughter's a junior in high school, but she's not playing any. She does horseback riding, so I go watch those as well. Baseball season's coming up. It's the first spring that I haven't really had excuses to go watch high school baseball. I may be that weird parent that goes and just watches random high school baseball just because I enjoy the energy and the fun.
Bro, we did the same. My wife and I woke up one morning. Our kids did cross country and swimming. We woke up one Saturday morning. The kids were going and said, "Let's go watch a cross country meet."
Right. Well, okay, so I feel better. So if you're watching cross country meets, I mean that's real die hard there. So,
exactly.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So I feel better. So maybe I can show up to a baseball game and not feel bad about myself that I don't have a kid actually out there playing.
So yeah, Carim. So thank you for this talk, but more importantly, thank you for what you do, not just for BGE, but you do for the ecosystem, what you do there in Baltimore, what you do for Maryland overall. I couldn't thank you enough what you do for me and for TEDCO. So appreciate all.
Well, no, I appreciate it. Again, thank you and TEDCO and everything you're doing. Again, the only way our state's going to ever live up to its full potential, continue to be that leader in the U.S. is we got to keep innovating. So, however we can partner, however BG can be helpful, whether it's with TEDCO or any other organization, we're all ears and we'd love to be part of it.
I appreciate you. So again, this is Troy Lamel-Stovall, CEO of TEDCO. Thank you all for listening to this great interview. A lot of great nuggets here today. Think about your career as a journey of entrepreneurship and innovation. Think about having people around you. And also think about mountain biking to great heights. Thank you, Carim. Thank you all for listening. Until the next time, be safe, be sane, be healthy, be blessed. Take care.